Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Rose.
And I'm Jessica Bun Bun.
Welcome to our review of Love is Blind Season 8. This is episode 10, 11, and 12. These new 3 episodes of the show have dropped on Netflix. And how many of these couples are actually going to get married at this point?
I mean, they left us on quite the cliffhanger here. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Ben and Sara, are they going to make it? Are they actually going to say yes? I know if you watch a show before, you've seen this type of edit before where it looks like absolutely not going to happen. But this time around, it's kind of like a 50-50. We saw them having some pretty serious talks about, you know, their faith and their not faith and everything else that's going on. A lot of major life feelings about things that just kind of don't match up. And I mean, Ben has tried to do his best to seemingly smooth things out and reassure her the best that he can. But I just don't know if she's there, if she really believes it, where she's like, oh man, every week I'm gonna have to go sit in a church and I just don't want to do that.
I am in the really tricky spot with these two at this point because I've said this before. This is my first season watching Love is Blind. So the only edit I have to compare this to is the edit from the end of the last 2 batches of episodes, which turned out to be the biggest wet fart cliffhangers of all time. We had the Taylor and Daniel, oh my gosh, Instagram DMs. It was like, wah, wah, wah. And then this time around, we had everything that was sort of suggested about Ben and Sara and the TikTok drama.
That turned into nothing.
Wah, wah. So it's like neither one of these amounted to anything. But if I'm just to cast all that aside, I think, yeah, maybe they get married and I love love. I want love to last. I don't think this is going to last because I think Sara is trying to compromise too much of what she wants out of a partner, thinking, oh, you can't get everything you want, but you can get closer than this.
Yeah, I mean, this episode or these episodes have really changed a lot of my feelings and thoughts that I had during the first 2 batches. Like, I wasn't sure about Taylor and Daniel, but after watching these 3 episodes, I feel a little more confident about them. I mean, there's just such a nice back and forth and chemistry there. I feel even less sure about Joey and Monica, and I felt very sure about those 2. And now I'm kind of like, is he holding back too much? Is she holding back too much that it's going to make it that they get to the altar and it doesn't work out? Everything I thought I knew, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Okay, let me just ask you this question, because I said from the start I didn't want to do too much research on this show. I wanted to just kind of go in blind, explore it, get the sentiment of it. How many times on this show do you have somebody at the wedding ceremony be like, no, and then they run away? Does it actually happen often?
It does happen, but nobody runs away. There are people that say no, absolutely. And it is so awkward. And it feels a lot like that is the biggest part of the drama, usually of the show. Like, we've had some seasons where there's been like some not great stuff where somebody went out all night. They ended up with one of the other people from the pod. They, you know, were at their house. Nothing happened. Like, there's a lot of that's going on, but it does feel like we're right here. We're right at the point where it's like, who's going to get married? Who's going to say no? And how awkward is it going to be?
My favorite part of the end of this episode is when they are basically like, will you agree that love is blind, or will you walk away and never see this person again other than the reunion show that is probably coming later on this season?
Or the amount of people that end up meeting back up after the show, or even when we saw on this episode, we saw Meg and Mason walk in. I was like, it's like I had felt that they had something really special there, and it was really irritating to watch it all fall apart from what I feel was some miscommunication going on with Madison. So to watch them walk in holding hands, I was like, yes.
Oh, I've got a take on Madison. I'm saving that for later in the video, though. But before we go further into any of this, be sure to hit that subscribe button, because not only does it help us here at the channel, but today is Jess's 50th birthday.
Let's go.
That's right. Let's do that. old lady. There's an old lady era in this episode as well, but no,
Yes,
that
I
is
appreciated it so much.
subscribing is a great way to help celebrate Jess's birthday. We want to get to 70,000 subscribers. We've been doing this a really, really long time, and we really appreciate all of your support.
We do. And thank you so much to everyone who's joined our Patreon. We'll leave a link for you below. We are covering over there exclusively The Pit, which is airing on Max, and Prime Target, which is airing exclusively on Apple TV Plus. And it is the only place that you can get those reviews and help support Matt and I here at the channel. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, as Matt said,
Yes.
it is my birthday, and with
Okay.
it being Pisces season, let's get into our feelings about this episode and about Dave and
Okay.
how he let me down and how I need to just go straight to jail at this point
Oh,
for my
right.
take on him. Dave, he's been so frustrating. Even in the first couple episodes, he was very honest about the fact that he does run away from relationships, that
Yeah.
he hasn't been able to really get into something that much deeper because something will come up that will give him the fear, and then he'll just pick that thing until he gets out of the relationship. And that is exactly what happened throughout this relationship. Lauren happened to be with somebody close to when she went on the show before she knew Dave existed.
Yeah.
And somehow this is enough to break up with her. She is an angel on earth. Stop it. She is just like sweet and kind and unbelievably patient. When
Yeah.
she found out, where she was like, yeah, Dave was out all night. Yeah, okay, he went to this bar. Okay, he met up with other people from the pods there. Cool. Molly was there. Like, she didn't know for sure what was happening. We've seen on this show, for those of you who've watched it, that people have met up with people from the pods and went home with them. So when he's just like, yeah, I was there. Yeah, Molly was there, but we didn't talk. It's like, okay, but we need to take your word for it. Luckily, Molly, also an angel on earth, but she wouldn't have known. Lauren took that so well, and she was so patient with it, where she was just like, oh, okay, so what bar did you go to? Okay, so they were there. Okay, so what happened? Did you talk to Molly? No, I didn't. Okay, no problem. Then you didn't come home until, what time is it now? 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I would have been livid. It would have been a completely different conversation, and that relationship probably would have fell apart right there. But Lauren, you have the patience of an angel.
I really feel a lot for Lauren coming out of these episodes, and I've tried here and there to give Dave a little bit of the benefit of the doubt and sort of be like, okay, you know, I understand maybe you're paranoid, maybe you are afraid, you have these issues in your past, and I think his whole story all season has been, does he really want to change, and can he change?
Right.
Because he went into the pods with this, here's who I am, but I don't want to be this person anymore. And I think when you're in that environment, the pods are very pressure cooker like. You have nothing going on. You don't have your phone. The only thing you're focused on are these people who you're dating. So I think it's very easy to conquer a lot of those fears in that environment. But then you go out into the real world, and then those fears start to really come out a lot. And for a guy who projects, I think, as much confidence as Dave does, I think underneath a lot of that, there's a lot of insecurity. And I get that. I have a lot of insecurities too, but his insecurities are pretty glaring in this sense, where he seems to be very obsessed with what everybody around him, thinks of his relationship. He needs their opinions. He needs their approval. He talks about his friends like they are the most important people who have ever walked the face of the earth. And if his friends don't agree with what he does, his friends are going to lock him in a chamber somewhere. Like, he is so desperate, or he's so willing to use them as an excuse for what he really kind of wants deep down, which is that need to run away.
Yeah, there just feels like there's still an immaturity there. I believe David still, that when he came into the pods, that this is what he wanted. He wanted to be able to move on from his insecurities about being in a relationship. He wanted to stop what he was doing before. And yes, this show is a pressure cooker for that. All you have to do is be in your feelings like you're a Pisces. We're all Pisces in these pods, where all you do is deal with your feelings all day and try to think yourself to death. That's just the way that it is in there. And it is an environment where people can make change. But the minute that you're back out, David putting so much emphasis on his friend's opinion feels like to me something that is an immaturity, because when you're in a relationship,
Mhm.
your relationship becomes your family. You move forward together as a pair, as a couple. Your friends are still there to encourage and be part of it and make everything better, but they're not there to be like, oh, we've never met this girl and we're
Yeah.
not even going to give her a chance. I'm just kind of like, what kind of friends do you have that they're not even going to listen to her? The sister is the other issue in this.
Mhm.
I think that one of two things is happening here. Either this sister is exactly what Dave has painted her out to be, which is this monster that like controls his life. It's like, okay, I'm allowing you to go on this show, but I'm not allowing you to go further than the pods. It's just like I'm having a hard I don't know his sister. We haven't
Mhm.
seen her yet,
No.
but I'm having a really hard time believing that his sister would be kind of that mean about this process. Like, I feel like she probably was like, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I think that there's going to be some people on there. They're just like, I want to be reality famous. She's not wrong. There are always people. If you're going on a love show, there's people there for the right reasons, and there's
Yeah.
people there for Instagram. She's not wrong. But at the same time, you still need to check out who that person is. Are they the Instagram people or are they the real ones like Lauren, right? You've got Lauren who is so real and is so invested in David that she wrote a letter out
I know.
to his sister to explain herself that she owes his sister nothing. They've never met. The sister isn't even willing to meet with her, not even off camera, which is completely acceptable. Like, why not give that a chance? Then the sister can see for herself whether or not Lauren is one of these Instagram people or Lauren is a real one. And the fact that David wouldn't even give her the letter tells me that it's number two. It's not actually that the sister is a controlling monster,
Yeah.
that it is the sister is a heavy influence in his life. David can't seem to make a decision for himself. He needs his friends to tell him what to do. He needs a sister to tell him what to do.
Mhm.
And if they're feeling a little bit off about something, maybe the sister's like, I have some concerns about this. What if she's just in it for the fame? Then David's like, yeah, she's just in it for the fame, instead of listening to what the sister actually said, which is, I have some concerns. Let's see how it goes. Because he admitted that he fed that with his sister, where his sister was like, okay, yeah, go to the pods or whatever, but like, for the love of God, don't come back engaged to someone that you've met for a week, kind of thing. And he's like, oh, yeah, no worries. I'm not going to do that. He fed that to her. So, of course, she's going to be thinking, well, he's not going to do it. And then up pops Lauren. And now all of a sudden it's a problem because Dave created this problem.
I feel like Dave's probably watching this show back with a lot of regret. I don't know the guy, but I think he's probably projecting a lot of his fears onto Lauren while this whole thing was happening. And then he's watching it and seeing how patient she is, and probably seeing a lot of the reaction from the people beyond his friend group that are just like, oh my gosh, she's great. What are you doing? You're completely out of your mind. And this
Yeah.
brings us to this idea of, okay, is there any hope that these crazy kids can find a way to make this work? Because we do see Dave go to Lauren after their breakup and sort of apologize, and they have what I would kind of describe as a cordial enough conversation where they're sort of talking through some issues. I mean, clearly we don't see them, heading to the chapel
No.
at the end of these episodes, but I still think there's a chance. But I will say this: if you are Lauren in this situation, if you want to take Dave back, what you need, Dave needs to be like immediately. And I'm not saying next week, I'm not saying, 4 days. Tomorrow, we're going to see the sister, we're
Right.
going to see the friends.
Yes.
I'm actually going to make up for these mistakes that I have done. And I am now realizing that I let my fears take over me and I did the same thing over and over again. And it's such a mistake. And I'm so sorry. But I don't know if he's going to be capable of that, because that seems to be a very big swing for a guy like him.
Yeah, he even said when he texted his sister to be like, okay, it's ended, his sister sent back like this sad crying emoji. Like, she's like, oh man, I'm really sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
That was the moment that I was like, okay, Dave is painting his sister. This is how it feels to me. Dave is painting his sister to be a lot more hard on him than she is, that he is just influenced by what she says. And if she brings up a concern, he takes it as a fact instead of just taking it for what she said. I'm giving the sister the benefit of the doubt, and I could be taking a big L on that, and maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it kind of feels like from the information that the show is giving me, that if he really does want to make this work, and it seemed like he was still kind of on a fence of his own making at that point, where he's like, man, I do really want to be with her, but my sister and my friends are in my ear. How do I battle this? Just take your minute and get over the fact that she had this guy that she was sleeping with a little bit before she knew you existed. Like, what is she supposed to do? Just have no life because she's waiting for somebody who may or may not exist? It's an unfair thing to ask of her. She's not with this person. She is with you. So he needs to put in the effort. Exactly what Lauren said, where she's like, it's great to hear this from you, but actions need to speak louder than words. Because he's like, oh, why didn't you contact me? Why should I contact you? You're the person who's put us in this situation.
Yeah, he has to step up to the plate at this point. I would just say, I don't think his sister is the most evil person imaginable.
No!
Just because if I was his sister and I'm getting a message from Dave, and if Dave was like, I have met this woman. I think she might be the love of my life.
Yep.
I love her.
Yes.
She's great. I want you guys to get to know each other. It is really important. I cannot imagine in a million years her being like, no, I don't want to do this. I'm just going to sit here and pout. It's like, no, I can't imagine that happening.
She would have to just be the angriest person out there that's just like, I don't want Dave to have happiness. And I just don't believe that that's the case. I feel like the sister would have at least met off camera. Like, it seems like Lauren's dad met off camera and he was like, listen, like, I want to meet him, but I don't want to be on camera. No problem. We'll set that up. Okay. If the friends don't want to be on camera, no problem. We'll set that up. Same with the sister. Like, it's okay. I actually wonder, and sister, if you're watching, are you watching this back being like, Dave, how could you do me so dirty?
I know. It's
because
possible.
if my brother was on this show, and I have two, if one of my brothers was on this show and was talking about me like that, I'd be like, bruh, why would you make me out to be like I'm this controlling freak that won't let you do anything, that doesn't want you to have happiness? Like, he's done his sister dirty.
Okay, before we go on to some of the other couples here, I want to spend a few minutes talking about the greatest part of these 3 episodes, which I do think dragged at some points, but the bachelor/bachelorette party. I cannot think of a more imbalanced parties in terms of which one is more fun. Okay, for the bachelorette party, the old age makeup stuff, I mean, take it or leave it. I'm fine with all of that. If we want to have a theme costume get up, that's great. But you're going to the mall and you're going on roller coasters and rides and you're having a great time versus you're going to the Minnesota Vikings practice facility. You're throwing a football around, which, look at me. Do you think I'm going to have a lot of fun doing that? Also, I'm not going to have a lot of fun doing that with the Vikings because that basically means I'm going to be relevant for a while, but I'm never going to win anything at the end of the day. And so I don't want that to happen either. I will say this, though. This is my here's my big takeaway from the Vikings practice facility is that I feel like in another life, not in this life, but in another life, I could have been a really good sports mascot. Like, you put me in the costume, I could dance around, I could do the worm, nobody would ever know that it's me. It just seems like a really great gig. It's better than anything else that you can do in sports. I'm already blind. It doesn't matter if I can't see in that hat.
It's true, but, you have the energy for that. But I will say, you haven't had a chance to see the other seasons.
Okay.
I think that these bachelor and bachelorette parties are always in balance. Okay. It's always that the guys get to do something huge, like they're at a stadium with nobody in there and they're getting to do these huge things that you would never get a chance to do in your lifetime unless you had like big bucks to be able to go into an empty stadium and be able to actually be down on the field, all that. The guys always get these types of bachelor parties where the women always get to go to a bar, sit inside a lounge and eat some food, get to be on like a little roller coaster dressed up as old ladies, which I appreciate because, you know, I'm old lady gang now. But it was just, it's always so imbalanced, or it's like, where's the big amazing moment for the bachelorettes where it's like you get to be at like a stadium that's closed down, like something that big? It never happens for them.
I One, you're right, based on what I saw this season. Two, I don't care if the guy's date is more elaborate and is at this big stadium. I want to go to the mall. I want to go on the rides. I want to have some fun that way. Also, just like, unless you specifically root for that team or you're really good at throwing a football, I just don't know why that's fun. I mean, I am a football free agent. If you guys tell me who to root for in the comments, because I'm not rooting for the Vikings. I will tell you that much. But
I'm rooting for Molly. Let's talk about Molly.
Yeah.
She is somebody that really surprised me. And to see this relationship with her and Lauren grow the way that it did, we saw it in the pods a little bit. I was like, it feels so genuine. I wonder if it's really going to last. And watching it last, watching them have that conversation where she was like, yeah, by the way, you know, I was at the same bar as David. I did not go over and say hello because I thought it was completely inappropriate. So I didn't do it. And I haven't seen this, but I heard that there was like some other girl that was all over Dave. But because I didn't see it, and because I was the other person that was in the pods, I didn't feel that it was appropriate that I would come and tell you that, because I'm not going to be the person that makes your relationship break up or stay together. I was just like, Molly, I love you. You're also angel on earth. Like, it was just so nice to see these two women having each other's back, watching her go and just like lay out Dave the way that she did and call him out for exactly what he's doing, which is just like, you're just being afraid. You're doing exactly what you said you do. You're pushing her away, and you're pushing away somebody who's perfect. So, you know, you do you, guy.
The big takeaway I had from Molly, and really from a lot of this episode, is just how much reality TV editing can shape all of her thoughts on these people.
Because, like the poor sister.
Yeah, like the poor sister. We go back to the pods. Molly comes across as very competitive. Oh, is she trying to hurt Lauren with X, Y, or Z? But she also said at one point in the pod she didn't know it was Lauren who was the other person who Dave was seeing. And, you know, after watching her in this episode, I'm more willing to give her the benefit of the doubt because she comes across way nicer. And on the flip side, I was maybe the lone Madison defender coming into the first 6 episodes. I was on Madison Island being like, okay, you've gone through a lot. I understand that you've been hurt. You're trying to be very protective, maybe overprotective of your heart at times, but you were just like unnecessarily mean in these episodes, and I don't really get it. It's just like, what's the point of coming out here and just like trying to just throw fire on everything? It's just like, I'm sorry it didn't work for you. I was rooting for you, but you don't have to be like this now.
Yeah, it's not a good look for Madison. It's also a really bad look for Alex, but Alex already came across to me as this. So her story of what happened afterwards, that he was like, oh, you know, he had looked her up. He knows what she looks like. Meet me at the airport, begging her to stay in the DMs, all that stuff. I believe it 100% that has happened. I feel like that has happened quite a lot on this show, that afterwards they're like, oh, I see what you look like. Okay, let's meet up, hook up, date, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
I don't believe for a second that Meg contacted Alex to be like, hey, guy. I don't believe that for a second. Could she have contacted me and be like, hey, we're both on the show. We're all part of this team. Sure, of course. That all kind of makes sense. But her sliding into the DMs to be like interested in Alex, not in a million years. Like, even Lauren was like, I never heard them have any kind of connection in the pods whatsoever. Yeah. Meg never mentioned him on dates. They had no connection whatsoever. This doesn't sound right. And I was like, girl, I know it doesn't sound right.
I feel like I can comfortably root for Meg and Mason now, though. I feel like there is something that is there. They're both a little bit weird, but that's fine. Weird attracts weird sometimes in the real world. But okay, let's move to these other couples, because this is sort of the problem that I have with this part of the show at this point, is that I'm rooting for a lot of them, but at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and be like, a lot of this was entertainment gold. Out of the couples that we had here, I think the moment that really struck me and the moment that really got me fully on board Lauren and Daniel was Lauren basically telling
Taylor
him,
and Daniel.
Taylor and Daniel, there's too many people who look
I
similar
know.
on this show.
Okay.
Taylor and Daniel is
Yes.
when Taylor was basically like, you're a rare human, Daniel. And it was
I
such
know.
it was a very specific compliment. And that's not something I've heard that much before. And that really made me feel like, okay, she put a lot of thought into what she was saying. And that meant something to me. And I'm sure that meant something to him. And it made me feel like, okay, you guys really have a deep emotional connection. I think we've had questions about the physical connection and all of that. But I think just they may have the deepest emotional bond out of anybody, and that can work just wonders in the real world.
Yeah, I think it also helps a lot
Mhm.
that they not only met each other's families, but that their families met each other's families. And I
Yeah.
think that bringing that all together gave the two of them a real look into what that's going to look like on the outside world. That not only do their families like them, but their families like each other, and that they all get along, and that this is a nice big family unit. And I think that it just gives a deeper perspective for the two of them. I really like them. It just feels like this could go the distance.
I feel like the other piece of evidence that this could go the distance at this point is that Daniel, my guy, not many people are going to put up with the Christmas all the time thing. Like, I like Christmas, but you're the real version of Kumail's character from Only Murders in the Building, who's just like has Christmas decorations in his house in July. This is a lot. The fact that you found somebody who is also weirdly into this as much as you, I think the two of you may just be like, okay, we're made for each other. If this
Yes.
doesn't work out, we're probably not going to find somebody
I
else
know.
who puts up with this. Where we're going to have a Christmas themed photo shoot. And I don't know what time of the year that this was filming, but it wasn't Christmas.
Okay, we don't have any spoilers. We haven't seen ahead or
Yeah.
anything like that. What do you think? Daniel and Taylor, I feel like they're going to say yes. There's been nothing in the edit that
Yeah.
has made me, since that whole like, oh, did you follow me? Unfollow me on Instagram, which is nothing, that they've gotten well past that. Their families like each other. They like each other. Everything just, these 3 episodes felt like they're going to say yes.
I felt after episode 9 that they would not end up together. I feel like after these 3 episodes that
Yes.
they will end up together. I
Yes.
think I saw enough emotional growth, progression, and just like really specific things that they said and did with each other that didn't feel like they were just pulling something out of the can of reality TV dating cliches. Like it feels legitimate to me.
Okay, Devin and Virginia. Yes, they're going to be together. No, they're not.
Okay,
They're going to get married or not.
I'm struggling with this. This is like a pop quiz. Okay, so I feel like they're probably going to go through with it. I mean, but the question to me,
I agree. I think they're going to get married.
I think the question then, of course, becomes like, okay, are they going to stick together long term? I am hopeful, but I'm not going to say that I'm confident. And I think a lot of it to me here just comes down to the fact that I don't think we've dug as deep with the two of them as we have Taylor and Daniel. And I don't think I've seen enough of that. And they spent all this time on this prenup that didn't end up being a big deal at
Of course
all,
not.
which was incredibly annoying. But because we wasted all of this time on this prenup storyline, I don't think I got to know the two of them well enough to feel like I'm really, really confident. And that's not their fault. It's the show's fault, but I have to go on what the show gives me.
Yeah, I think Virginia also realized that, where she was like, okay, we spoke a lot in the pods and we've been speaking
Yeah.
a lot now. But after, seeing her mom asking a lot of really smart, deep questions, that she was like, you know what? We actually need to dig deeper on this. Let's talk about religion. Let's talk about politics. Let's see where we land on everything, where your family lands or my family lands. Like the questions of things that break relationships apart. And she was like, yeah, we got to get deeper before we say yes. And they did. And that was good. It was good to see.
I think they're going to give it a really good shot. Like we'll wait and see on them. I'm not as confident on them as I am Daniel and Taylor. I'm not as confident on them as I am Joey and Monica. Where I will come out here, I
Okay.
still believe fully in Joey and Monica. I was really confident with them coming out of the pods. I
Yeah.
was really confident last week.
Yeah.
I'm still confident this week. I think the
Okay.
only concern that's out there is sort of the is this too good to be true? And I think they're getting in each other's heads. I think they're both starting to be like, oh, everything has been so great for us and it's worked so well. And you're
Mhm.
approaching the wedding and you have all these sort of jitters. And I
Of
think
course.
you're worried that it's going to be like this magic trick where the magician comes and pulls the tablecloth and then everything falls off and it's not like it's supposed to be. I think it's going to be fine. I think that I'm just starting to study Love is Blind and how you guys make me worried about things that are not important at all. I think you guys are going to be fine.
I hope that they're going to be fine. I think that the thing that really helped was having Monica's sister come out, do that photo shoot,
Yeah.
and have her actually really get to know Joey in more than just a first impression, like pressure cooker of he's there, her whole family's there, he's just in an environment where he's not comfortable, they all know each other. It's always really awkward meeting the family for the first time, and sometimes you don't act like yourself. Everybody has their nervous persona
Yeah.
of like when they're, in a spot where they're like, oh, everybody else knows each other really well, but I don't know anybody. So now I'm going to be the funny guy, the nervous guy, the whatever guy. And I think that that's kind of what was happening. And here, Monica's sister really got to know him where it was just Joey. And she was like, okay, I see it now. And I think that that will help a lot.
I think so. I think that problem is seemingly taken care of.
I think they're going to say yes.
I think they're going to say yes. I think they both have a really good sense of humor. They understand each other. Joey, it is such a choice that you continue to wear Hawaiian shirts in freaking Minnesota. And
Mhm.
I want to believe that someone as quirky and strange as you is going to find love. And finally, we have Sara and Ben. And as we said early on, like I'm not confident that they're gonna make it long term one way or the other, just because I think they're just too different. And I think Sarah's just so desperate to try to make it work that she's overlooking way too many things.
I think she's gonna say no. Like
Okay.
I want to think because of the edit, the way that they sort of left it like that, because they've done this to me before, where
Yeah.
they're just like they've made it feel very obvious that they're not gonna go forward with it, but then they do, of course, right? That's
Yeah.
always kind of the first cliffhanger. And you're right, the cliffhangers this season have been like nothing, nothing, right? So it could be that way here as well. But it does feel like we are going to at least get one couple that says no. It kind of happens every season, even couples you feel really good about.
Yeah.
But there's just such a divide between them when it comes to religion and him going to church every week, her not wanting to go, her trying to make a compromise, him being okay with that compromise.
Yeah.
But it just feels like that's going to get into her head too much with her sister, with everything. I just think she's going to end up being like, I really love this guy, but our differences are just too much to bear.
Yeah, and I think that's okay.
It is okay.
That happens in relationships sometimes. And
Yes.
and this is not an instance of, at least based on what we've seen, where Ben is willing, it's just being so rigid. He hasn't said to her, we have to go to this specific church every week or
No.
else. Like, he's trying, I think, to some extent to be flexible. I mean,
He
yes,
is.
he still frustrates me with how much he seemingly does not remember about certain events of the past. Like, he did it in these episodes again, where he's just like,
Yes.
I don't remember. Dude, how bad is your memory when it comes to all of this? But I think that he is someone who wants to try to make this work on some level. I don't think he's going to say no. I think if somebody is saying no, it's going to be her. And I would understand why. I think she needs to sort of take a step back and realize, okay, there is going to be somebody out there who maybe they don't agree with every single thing I believe under the sun, but they're going to be more in lockstep with a lot of the things that you do believe in. You don't have to compromise this much when it comes to a relationship.
Yeah, it's a lot, and it is a couple of different things. It's not just one thing.
Yeah.
I just think it's going to be tough for them to get past this. They have on love goggles right now,
Yeah.
but I do feel like standing at that altar is the time that you're like, okay, my love goggles are off. Like,
Yeah.
can this actually work or not?
I just say in general, these episodes were enjoyable, but the second two were too long. It's just like there wasn't enough drama to justify, wait, this is an hour and 11 minutes. This is longer than The White Lotus. Like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
It needs to be trimmed up a little bit. And, I can't speak for other seasons. Maybe there's more drama that fills this runtime on some of them. But
Sometimes it's hard with these last episodes because typically at this point you've
yeah,
learned as much as you can about each other. I think most people know whether or not they're going to say yes or no. I've never enjoyed the whole, oh, we're putting on our suits, we're getting the wedding dresses.
Yeah.
It's like it's eating up 40 minutes of an episode watching people try on clothes. It's just, there's not enough there.
It is reminding me a little bit of Bachelor in Paradise, where like the first handful of episodes of Paradise are really good, but then
Yep.
people start to couple up, and it's just then you're watching people cuddle, and then it's not as exciting anymore. And I want to see somebody come in and like smash somebody's cake or like cause drama. And
Wrong show.
yeah, there's just not a lot of that in this part. But I am finding myself really rooting for some of these people.
Yeah.
I do hope that there are some happy conclusions. We'll see what happens with these ceremonies, but for now, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It is Jess's 50th birthday. Don't you want to give her a gift of helping us get to 70,000? Thank you guys for your support. Also, thank you to everyone supporting us on Patreon. That link is in the description. We're covering The Pit and also Prime Target over there exclusively in video form. Thank you guys. We'll see you here next time.